Hey everybody, I'm Mike Jones. I'm a retired Texas police officer.
G'day everybody, I'm Pete Gillette and I'm a retired New South Wales policeman. G'day Mike, how you doing?
Hey Peter, good to see you. It's been a while, buddy.
Yeah, well, it must be about a month I think.
God, man, it's been a long time. I've been busy, and how
Mm.
you? What have you been doing?
Well, I haven't been just busy as I'm normally been busy. I haven't got much to brag about.
Milking a cow, and
That's right.
well,
Yeah,
you
I was
sent me some pictures.
yeah, I got a one of my I've got a beautiful heifer. Her name is Olive, and I put her in with a bull about nearly 3 weeks ago. So since I've spoken to you last, but the bull's paddock is right next to her paddock, and I was going to leave her in there for a week. 2 nights later, she's back and she jumped the fence. So I don't know whether he did the deed or not. So I'll find out on about Wednesday
She
because they
got one
cycle
on
every.
to do.
So that's about as interesting as my life gets.
Yeah,
Is the cow pregnant or not? Big deal.
yeah.
Anyway,
You got to keep your fingers crossed because that,
yeah,
you know, that,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's money. You know.
Yeah, so that's about it. Just the normal humdrum of life, living on a homestead.
Well, it's been a while. I had a coffee with a couple of old cops this morning. I was telling them what you and I are doing on a. For me, it's Friday. For you, it's Saturday.
Mm,
Um, and telling them, how we'll discuss the similarities and the differences between our two
mm,
two countries. I can't really even call it a country because I can only speak for Texas.
mm.
But you're speaking because you were essentially in an area that's probably the size of Texas. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
gonna,
is. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think New
yeah,
South Wales and Texas. I think Texas is a little bit bigger, but pretty much the same.
yeah. So
Big
it's
police force.
yeah. So I would consider that Australia. Where you guys in Australia do all this. You probably trained all the same way, same laws.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
countrywide. In
mm,
Texas or in the United States, the federal laws are the same throughout all the United States, obviously,
mm,
but each state has its own laws too. That is,
mm,
'cause we normally don't as state police. We don't normally enforce federal law, and that didn't come out right. Uh,
mm,
we, we usually have a Texas law that's built on a federal law, so
mm,
that's
mm,
what we'll enforce. I
mm,
mean, we can't
mm.
take away, but we can improve on that law for Texas.
Oh, yeah,
Does that
right.
make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. I think so. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you've
So
got over. I think I read in a book written by one of your fellow Texan, retired Texan policemen, a bloke named Ron DeLord, and in his book, he sent a copy of his book to me. I think he said you've got 880 jurisdictions in your country.
yeah,
Man, oh man, we've
or
got
in our state.
seven. We've got seven.
Yeah,
So a whole lot
it's
simpler.
pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the funny thing, or I don't know if it's funny, but the interesting thing about those jurisdictions is when you're elected, let's say you're an elected sheriff, or in my case, I became an elected constable the last 16 years of I did 27 years as a Texas law enforcement.
Mm,
16 of those were elected by the people.
mm,
So theoretically, we have statewide jurisdiction, so the entire state of Texas,
mm.
except for traffic. And there's something else there, but I don't know of anybody that would leave my county, go all the way to El Paso, 800
Yeah.
miles away, and
Mm,
arrest somebody.
mm,
It the mechanics is just not there.
mm, mm-hmm.
In those jurisdictions, if it, my neighboring county, for instance, and I don't think y'all have counties,
No.
but you have New Southwest is a jurisdiction,
Mm.
and then
Oh,
uh,
it's Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, just Tasmania.
so that would be a jurisdiction, right?
Oh
A
yeah,
different.
each state has its own police force.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Well, let me preference it by saying that our county is, maybe 40 miles wide, and maybe that in
Mm,
length, right? That
mm,
would be our jurisdiction.
mm,
The next county over if I cross the county line, I can still arrest in that county, but I have
Mm-hmm.
to take him to or her to a magistrate in that county
Right.
and have a magistrated there, and then get
Mm.
authorization from that judge to bring him back to our county. I can't just
Ah.
go, can't go over there and grab one of their people and bring him over here,
Ah.
Uh, but that's kind of, I've never had an issue to where a judge says, no, you can't take our
Mm.
person. But
Mm.
that's kind of how it works. If we had a warrant for a person that had, let's say they committed a robbery in Texas, and we
Mm.
know they're in Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
then we have a warrant, and then we could go to Oklahoma.
Is that a neighbouring
Arrest.
state?
Yeah, it's a neighboring state.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say they got it. Well, let's say I didn't go. Let's just say that Oklahoma stopped them for speeding. They
Mm-hmm.
ran their name. It came up and it
Mm-hmm.
showed that they're wanted in Texas for
Right.
a felony, which in
Mm-hmm.
this case would be robbery. Then when Texas confirmed it, so they'd have to contact Texas, said, hey, we got, Joe Smuckatelli arrested here. We're showing a warrant in the system, the federal system. Um, will you extradite? And if Texas says yes, we'll
Mm-hmm.
extradite. Then they have to be
Wow.
seen by a magistrate there,
Mm.
and they can say, I'm going to waive extradition, and that
Okay.
way or
Ah.
they'll say, no, I want to fight extradition, and
Ah.
then a bunch of hearings have to take place in that state
Ah.
before we can
Wow.
transfer.
Gee, that's
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah,
That's
it's complicated.
complicated. Because
I
we
don't get
could,
into it.
yeah, when I was in the coppers, I remember hearing about I think it might have been a probationary constable who was working right in Sydney somewhere. So Sydney is right on the east coast of Australia. So it's on the east coast of our state. So New
Right.
South Wales has where the coast is, that's the Pacific Ocean. I'm just giving you people geographical information. Probably the furthest extent of New South Wales would be somewhere like Broken Hill, which is, I don't actually know, but it could be about maybe 1,000 kilometres, probably somewhere in the order of that far, say from Sydney to Broken Hill. Okay, there was a policeman down there, and he was saying to his sergeant or his supervisor something about, the person's moved to wherever. He said, well, son, he said, you're a policeman out there, you're a policeman there too. Meaning you can just go there and arrest him. Now,
800 miles or 800 kilometers.
yeah, I mean, in practical terms, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You would contact the police at Broken Hill and you'd say, mate, can you go out and arrest this bloke for me? And that would happen. But legally speaking, there's absolutely zero. And if that policeman wanted to do that on his own behalf, there's nothing legally to stop him from doing that. He'd get in his private car and drive all the way to Broken Hill and say to this bloke, mate, you're under arrest, and take him back to Sydney. But that's not going to happen.
So let's say he went to Broken Hill and he arrested that guy on something that he did in Sydney, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have to take him to the local Broken Hill magistrate?
No,
and
you
say,
wouldn't have to
hey,
take him to a magistrate.
he's-
No,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's actually one of the things I wanted to ask you about. I know we sort of covered it a little bit before in an earlier podcast, and the question I'm going to ask you is because it came up in a conversation I was having with someone here on King Island yesterday. And the conversation was around ICE agents, and the person that made this comment to me was that ICE agents were not police, that they were border enforcement officers. Said, no, that's not the case, and said that ICE agents were kicking in doors and arresting people without warrants. And I said, look, I doubt that's happening and I referenced the conversation that you and I had where you need to go to a judge and get a warrant issued. And because most people in this country, they don't know how the police operate here anyway, like from a legal point of view. And I just quickly explained, look, a policeman in Australia, he doesn't need, if he wants to arrest somebody, it doesn't matter whether it's for stealing or murder. The policeman himself makes the decision, I'm going to go and arrest that person. They don't need a warrant from a judge. Anyway, so I explained that, and that was sort of, that went over people's heads because it's a bit boring for a start. But I did say to this person, look, ICE agents are not border enforcement. I said they are federal agents. You
Yeah.
know, and it just confounds me. It really, actually, really frustrates me that people can be so ignorant of pretty basic information like that.
Well, they're watching the news, and the news gets it wrong, but they don't
Yeah,
think they think if the news is saying it, then
mm,
it's absolutely true.
yeah,
But you and I know
yeah,
as cops, that's
mm,
that's not true,
mm.
and we can't necessarily argue those points because the person eyes glaze
Yeah,
over
yeah. They just glaze
on
over.
things.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's really a prejudice. You're arguing against, to some degree, against prejudice, and that's pretty hard
yeah,
to argue against.
yeah.
But one of the just recently, there's a fairly highly regarded news podcaster in this country. I think she might be reasonably popular in your country too. Erin Molan, something like that. She's quite a pretty blonde-haired girl. Erin, first name's Erin, I think. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But she was talking about the. She was actually talking to a retired US intel officer or someone of that caliber. Anyway, she said that you remember the murders that happened on Bondi Beach a couple of months ago now, and she said that hang on, was it? I'm just trying to remember if that's what she was talking about. But she actually got mixed up between shotguns and rifles.
Hmm.
She referred to this bloke was using a rifle, and
Yeah,
she called it a shotgun. Now, bloody hell, there's a hell of a difference between a rifle and a shotgun. I mean,
yeah,
and if you're going to be reporting on the news, basic stuff like that, you should get right. You know, and it was this Erin because I actually commented on her podcast. I commented, gee, hell of a difference between a rifle and a shotgun. And, and quite a few people chimed in with the same thing. That annoys me. If you're going to be in the
yeah.
business of telling news, get it right.
Yeah, well, I think you and I are, because of our background, I think we have to deal with facts all the time. If you were to write a report, let me put it this way: if I was writing a report on an arrest I made for a crime that was committed with a rifle and not a shotgun, and I
Mm,
wrote in there that he used a shotgun and to commit this crime, the defense attorney now he can say, well, you
mm,
don't know the difference between a shotgun and a rifle,
mm,
do you?
mm,
If that's the
mm,
case, then you
mm,
don't know the difference between this thing and that thing.
mm,
And maybe really what you've done is got this all wrong. Is that not the
mm,
case? So
mm,
you and I
mm,
have
mm,
always had to
mm,
we always
mm,
had to write through, well, one, our report wouldn't even get past the first line of leadership. They
mm,
would say,
mm,
you
mm,
know,
mm,
but so you and I will pick it out when these so-called uh, editors or whatever on the news, they just
mm,
throw it out there and whatever
mm,
sticks,
mm,
and they don't care to make
mm,
corrections or care to get the facts right, and
mm,
nobody gets
mm,
harmed or hurt. But you and I
mm,
understand
mm. But I
that's
knew
not
that when I was 15 or 16. I
true.
used to do big bore target shooting with 7.62 millimeter rifles at a rifle range in Sydney.
That's a
Shooting
hell
up
of a
to,
round too.
yeah, I mean, we're shooting up to 900 metres. That was the
Yeah.
furthest mound. But man, oh man, I got roused on when I referred to the bloke that was training me. He was a World War II veteran, and he roused on me because I called it a gun. It ain't a gun, son. It's a rifle. Never forgot that.
Did you ever see that movie, Full Metal Jacket?
Never seen
uh
it, no.
so Arlie Ermy is the Marine drill instructor in this movie, right? You need to watch it. It's great. Uh, but
Mm,
he's got his one hand on his crotch, and I don't want to get this too crass, and the other on his rifle. And he goes, "This is my rifle. This is my gun. This is for fighting. This is for fun." So it's the same.
okay.
And that came off a movie, y'all. Don't give us bad email.
Yeah, the same thing happened in this country, Mike. As you probably know, we don't have an automatic right to own firearms. But back a long, long time ago, like decades and decades ago, one of the New South Wales Premier, that's the person, that's the politician in charge of a state, they're called a Premier, and he
Okay.
made a law outlawing high-powered or centre-fired semi-automatic rifles. So I didn't completely outlaw them, made it hard to get one. And but constantly, I'm talking about probably 40 years ago, the press continually referred to semi-automatic rifles as automatic weapons. Ah, oh, dear me. And don't tell me, no one can tell me that's not to inflame people, to get people
Sure it is.
excited. You know, that's
Sure it is.
exactly why they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To sell, they sell press that way. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like
I,
you told me a little while ago, even you guys aren't allowed to own automatic weapons. You
no,
know?
I mean, you can, but you have to go through a lot of hoops
Yeah.
and
Uh,
licensing and all to
mm,
do that. I
mm.
mean, and really, why would you need an automatic weapon? I mean, I
Yeah.
had an automatic weapon in the Marine Corps, but it was selectable. It went from
Yeah.
semi-auto to auto. I
Yeah.
can't, I mean, you could put it on auto and you're going to be out of ammunition pretty damn
Yeah.
quick.
Uh,
You know,
I have actually,
not auto.
when I was at school, so I finished school in 1975, just to put it in chronological placement. But there were in a lot of the state schools, they had a thing called the cadets, and it was like an annex of the army. And you could join the cadets and you wear it might have been on Wednesday afternoon and you wore your uniform and you practiced with .303 caliber rifles to do your drill, and all this sort of stuff. And it was in the cadets that we actually went once a year. You went on a camp called a bivouac. Anyway, and we also went out to the military, to the Army rifle range at a place called Holdsworthy, which is a big army base in Sydney. And we got to use World War II, a thing called a Bren gun, BREN. And the Bren is like what you just described. You go from semi-automatic to automatic. Man, that was exciting to use. And it's
Yeah,
a 303 caliber, with a 303 caliber, hell of a caliber.
it
Anyway,
is.
and yeah, that was, so I did actually get to use, I have actually used an automatic rifle.
Yeah, uh, us too. I don't feel a need for an automatic rifle.
Mm.
Sometimes, I mean, I can't think even civilian, even a civilian police officer. I really can't think where of a reason why you might want an automatic.
Yeah, yeah,
Really not that accurate.
uh,
Um,
uh,
you're just throwing shit out there. Sorry for my language. You're just throwing bullets out there, hoping one of them will stick and get you out of a sticky
you need
situation.
you need to spend more time on the range if you need an automatic
That's right.
for a lot of
That's right.
suspects. But so, can you
Uh,
just confirm for me, as far as you would know, that these ICE agents that they would have warrants for people's arrest?
so yeah. There's a blanket warrant.
Mm.
They
Right.
come across that ICE agents know who they are, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They broke the law. They broke a felony when
Mm-hmm.
they came across the border illegally, right?
Right. That's
So
a felony. Right. Yep.
that's a felony.
Right.
So
Yep.
so these ICE agents, they are law enforcement.
Mm.
Now they don't have powers of arrest for like speeding or
Mm.
they can't come to my hometown, for instance, and sit out there and run traffic or answer
Mm.
calls for service.
Mm.
That's not the police officers they are. They're
Mm.
federal police officers. They can
Mm.
only enforce federal law.
Mm.
So
Mm.
Texas law they can't enforce. Just
Mm.
like federal law, we can enforce it, but you know, there's usually a sister state law that will match a federal law. The only
Mm.
time the only
Mm.
time I've ever used the federal law was on narcotics.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you get a big narcotics arrest,
Mm.
you know, we try to get the feds, the DEA or whatever, to take over that case because it's going to be tied up for a long time, and so we'll work hand in hand with them on that.
What's
But
DEA?
the Drug Enforcement Agency,
Mm-hmm.
they're the premier handles narcotics. I mean, we can handle it. Don't get me
Mm.
wrong, but if we do federal, the the um, the federal system, they're God, I'm losing my train of thought on English today, but their punishments are
Mm,
usually harsher. So
I know.
here's an example. So in Texas, if somebody's sentenced to 10 years in Texas, they might
Mm,
get out in 3 years after with good behavior, and then they'll be on probation for 7 years. With the
mm,
feds,
mm,
far as what I know, is their day to day. So if you get sentenced to 10 years, you're going to do 10 years,
I
so
know.
they call it hard time. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's some reasons why we go to the feds.
Mm,
A felon in possession of a firearm, we
mm,
can normally do that federally too, but we
mm,
would hand it over and let them prosecute. But
mm,
we wouldn't. Uh, so the ICE agents get back on that. They are
mm.
federal law enforcement officers.
Yeah, that's what I told this person.
Yeah, but
Mm,
they're specific. I mean,
mm.
again,
Yeah.
they
I
can't.
mean, and you don't need you need there's no problem with being specific. You don't need them coming down to Texas and they don't need the power to knock someone off for speeding, do they? That's just it
Right.
would just be would it be dumb to do that? No
Exactly.
no
Yeah.
need for it.
Yeah, and
Mm.
we don't go out looking for illegal aliens. If
Uh,
or
mm,
people that come now, if we come in contact, let's say I pull somebody over for whatever reason, and
mm,
I find out that they're an illegal alien,
mm,
then I'll take them to our county jail. We'll
right.
notify ICE. It used to be called INS, Immigration Natural. I can't remember what the hell it was. They changed it to Immigration Customs Enforcement,
Oh
is
yeah.
what ICE stands for.
Yeah.
And then we'll get a hold of them, and then they'll put a hold on that person, and then they'll come get them and do whatever the federal guys do, and to send them back
Uh,
home.
I heard a suggestion recently. It's pretty funny that with the ICE, with the acronym of ICE, they need to put an N in front of it so they say they're nice agents.
That's right. That would be cool. National Immigration Customs Official. There you go.
I think
All
I'm,
these nice agents came over today.
the only,
That's
I
funny.
think I might have had a very fleeting experience once of illegal immigrants, and it's a funny story, really. One night when I was working at Dubbo doing night shifts, so it goes from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And
Mm.
of course, you don't want a major job right at the end of your shift that's going to tie you up
No,
for hours. I'm looking the
that's
other way. What murder?
that's
What are you
right.
talking about?
That's exactly right. We do the same thing.
Anyway, right towards the end of night shift, there was a house fire. And so all the, the fire brigade went there. The coppers are there. And when I pulled up in my paddy wagon, what I saw, and there's nothing, nothing racist there. What I'm saying, but there was some Asian women who came out and ran away. And I thought, what the hell's going on here? It was a really nice old, what we call a Federation style home, which is built around 1900. Really lovely old building. And these women are coming out and then running away. And then I worked out, I got the address. I went back to the police station after we did whatever we had to do. And I'm sitting down at the desk in the muster room preparing the initial report for the coroner. Oh, we have to report fires to the coroner. Anyway, and I'm thinking out. Oh, the only thing I noticed about the house, on the front of the house, you could see a sign that said "parking at rear." Well, why would they be parking at rear? Oh, and some of the women that came out, they said something about furniture, furniture. And I'm thinking, why are they talking about furniture in there? Anyway, it turned out when I was sitting at the desk in the muster room doing the initial report, the sergeant, it was really just a classic old, hoary, old, fantastic sergeant. And he come down there with a local newspaper, put it on the desk in front of me, sort of slammed it down and pointed to an ad. There it is, Pete. What he was pointing at was an ad for a brothel.
Oh, oh,
That was
oh,
that was the newest brothel in town.
oh. Burned down. What was the
And
furniture?
well,
Beds?
the reason it got burnt down was because the local organised criminals,
Mm.
it wasn't sanctioned by them. They had their own brothel, and any competition was met with ruthless violence. And so it was a bit. I mean, in a perverse way, it was sort of funny. No one got hurt, but
Yeah.
the house got burnt down, and there wasn't a brothel there anymore.
You know, I think it doesn't matter what country you're in, that organized crime, I mean, And
mm,
people always wonder how come the cops can't, do anything about organized crime. And the thing is we can, but when you go to prosecute, no one wants to be a witness. No one wants to,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
or
yeah.
your witnesses end up unaliving themselves. You know what I mean?
Well,
It,
another time I went to a job in a motel. So this has happened in Dubbo. Dubbo's a city of 40,000 people. There's quite a number of motels. And I went to this motel, and there's two. Look, I don't want to be cruel because they might watch this sometime. But they were, do you know what the word frumpy means?
a little dumpy, like a little,
Yeah, like they look
yeah,
like your Auntie Beryl. Yeah.
a
I
little
had an aunt.
chubby.
Yeah, they're just a bit chubby.
Okay.
They're a bit past it. And there's
Yeah.
these two women, and they could have been someone's Auntie Beryl, or Auntie Agnes, but they were prostitutes, and they were putting an ad in the local paper. Come and ring me, and fabulous Trisha, whatever they'll call themselves. But the reason they rang us is because they got a phone call or a message from the local one of the local organised criminals. If you don't move out of town, we're going to put you in an acid bath.
Oh,
Okay, righto. So they're not mucking about, these guys.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they quickly left town. But of course, they didn't want to report anything. But but I had a reasonably good working relationship with one of the organised criminals, and I'm not going to mention his name, but him and his wife were involved in the prostitution industry. And one time, the madam, she contacted me and said that one of her girls had been there was a problem when she took one of the girls to the motel. Now there was the girl, the worker, went to the motel. The madam went along with her to make sure everything was done right. Or you know what I mean, like got the money and everything, whatever else they need to do. But there was an argument between the madam and the prospective client, and the prospective client was a member of another organised criminal gang, righto? And had a wide mouth shovel, and he swung it at the madam. And I remember in her statement, it made her hair move. She had longish hair, and it made her hair move, which constitutes the offence of common assault. Don't have to actually make contact for common assault. She made a
Mhm.
statement to me, a formal statement. And
She
then
did.
during the night, my partner and I, based on the description, and the description, if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, he looked like Gimli. He had a big, long-haired, big, long-bearded fella. Just looked like Gimli. I think I got the right character. And we arrested him and charged him with this assault. So I had a reasonably good working relationship with some of the organised criminals.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't there? Some of those connections that cops can have with the other
So,
side.
yeah, I don't think people realize that we're not we're not blind to what goes on, but we can have those relationships with,
Mm,
I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to be dirty like him, and
mm,
he's not going to do anything dirty around me,
mm,
obviously.
mm,
I a quick story is there's a motorcycle club, you call them bikies, I think, right?
mm,
Is that right?
mm,
And they have a get together like twice a year, and it might be like a chili cook off or something, and they
mm,
they do that to make enough money to do improvements on their, they'll give some to charity, and they'll do this and they'll do that, but they're also involved in organized crime,
mm,
and
mm,
I ride a motorcycle. I used to, I don't anymore, but and they would invite the cops uh that used to ride motorcycles, right?
mm,
And then towards the end of the evening, let's say 8 p.m., they'd come tap on our shoulder. Hey, all right, it's time for y'all to roll out of here. So
mm,
we obviously we roll out of there. I mean, we're not
mm,
on duty.
mm,
Uh
mm,
it's a
mm,
private area. So I mean, it's like when
mm,
they ask you to leave, you can't say,
mm,
no, I'm a cop. I want to make
mm,
sure nothing's going on. Can't do that.
mm,
You got to roll out.
mm,
And so they wouldn't do anything around us, but
mm,
we're not dumb, you
mm,
know.
mm,
But maybe 6 months down the road, we catch them, one of
mm,
those guys, we're doing
mm,
something, we
mm,
have to be cops,
mm,
and they have to
mm,
be bad guys, and they know the
mm,
relationship, and
mm,
and
mm.
but
Yeah,
I've told you, go ahead.
sorry, go on. No, go on.
I was just going to say that if you're not a dirty cop, you're safe. You
Mm,
can arrest
mm,
people,
mm, mm,
and they know you're just doing your job. But if you're
mm,
dirty and
mm,
then you arrest
mm,
them, then
mm,
you're gonna. It's a well, wait a minute. You're dirty. I know you're dirty. I've
You're
seen you
dirtier
do
than
this.
them.
Yeah, you're dirty.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, you're
exactly.
double dirt.
Yeah.
Mm,
So
mm,
I would never. I'm not going to lower my integrity to to be somebody's
no,
friend, or be
no.
welcome somewhere. Kiss my ass. I'm not doing it. You know.
One of the places, one man stations I was at, and the pub, the hotel, was only about probably 200 or 300 yards away. I could see it from my house. Anyway, I
Mhm.
was on. I think I might have been getting ready to do afternoon duty or something, and there was a motorbike down at the pub, absolutely just smoked up the tyre in the right on at the hotel. So I got my gear. I must have been on duty because I went down there straight away, and the publican was trying to engender himself to this bikie, Oh, we're man's
Mhm.
mates and blah blah blah, and that's like apparently doing a burnout on the doorstep of the pub was like, oh, we're mates now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I took great exception to it, and I found out from someone at the pub where this bikie was going. There was two of them, and they went to another hotel in another little village. I went over there, and I saw the Harley Davidsons there, and I called for backup because I was on my own. So I called for backup, and another policeman arrived, and we went in, and and I demanded from them their ID. Now, as you know, you can ask whatever you want; they don't have to comply. And I couldn't say that was them. There's no way in the world I could say that was them. But I put them on the back foot, and they actually didn't have to do what I asked them to do. But they produced their licenses, and I recorded
Yeah.
their details and probably put an intel report on the system. That's all I did. But you got to
Because
with
they
people like that,
respected you, though.
you got to
Right.
put them on the back foot.
Yeah, and but they respected you for
Yeah,
being a
oh yeah,
cop.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
they weren't smart enough to know that they didn't actually have to do it. If they said no, we're not going to do it, because the only way you can demand their ID, their driver's license, is if they're on a motorbike or driving a motor vehicle. Can't ask it any other time. Anyway, they
So let
complied.
me ask you this. So in Texas, the motel parking lot would have been considered private property. So,
Oh yeah,
there would have been nothing a cop could have, I couldn't have
yeah,
done anything about it, as a police
mm,
officer. If they would have done it on a roadway,
mm,
what's considered the public roadway,
mm,
uh, then yeah, obviously. But they changed that law in Texas. It used to have a law here called racing on the highway, and that
right.
encompassed people, spinning their wheels at a red light when they,
Oh yeah,
how it
mm,
is. Um, but that law is not around anymore. So
oh,
I don't know.
mm,
Of course, I've been out of it for a while. I'd have to look it up and see if that law was encompassed in a different law. I don't
yeah,
think it was. I think
mm, mm,
yeah, I think we can. I think you could consider it reckless driving, but don't hold me
mm,
to that. You
mm,
guys that are watching that are from Texas, don't hold
mm,
me to that. I'd have to look it up, but
mm,
it used to be its own law, but
mm.
it was on a public roadway. That
Right,
was the
yeah.
element. We
Uh,
have elements of offense. If
yeah.
you don't, if the L, if the offense, I mean, if the crime, I don't know how to, if what that person did doesn't have meet elements of the
Mm,
offense
mm.
of an offense,
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
there's not an offense.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, that's the same here. We instead
okay,
of elements, we use the word proofs. Got to have the proofs of the offence,
yeah,
and
and they have to meet those in order
yeah,
for it to be
yeah,
a crime.
yeah. In New South Wales and probably most of Australia, I would say there's a if you're in the car park of a hotel, public road related area. So it might be
Mhm.
private property, but you could commit an offence, say the offence of drink driving. You could commit that in the car park of a hotel because it's a road related area.
Oh yeah,
And road related area it's a pretty big wide net. It doesn't mean the local highway or local streets and roads. It has a wider net than that. But also some to do with public spaces. Some years ago, It was certainly when my time in the police. And actually, in New South Wales, it's an offence unless you've got a reason to carry a knife, righto? You can't just walk
Mm,
around with a knife. Like I've got a knife in my pocket now, but
mm,
that's not an offence because I'm a farmer. I've got a legal reason to have it. But in New South Wales, if I was in a car on a public street and I've got a knife and I've got a knife in my car, I can be, and I don't have a legal reason, I can be charged or get an infringement notice, whatever it is, for having a knife in my car because that's
mm.
considered to be a public area. Inside a private car, if it's in a public area, that's still considered to be in a public area.
Yeah, we have something similar to it. It's
Mm.
whatever's within reach of the driver.
Ah, okay, yeah,
If he had,
right.
of course,
No,
we
yeah.
don't outlaw knives. There's certain sizes that obviously that you can't have, but we're getting away from uh, having people get licensed for this and that. We're trying to get big government out of
Mm.
people's private
Yeah,
life.
yeah, I'm all for that. Mm.
Yeah. So I mean, I used to pull over people before open carry was legal. I'd,
Mm.
I'd pull over somebody, and I may have said this on our podcast before, but I would say, "You have any weapons in the car?" That
Mm.
was part of the violator contact, and they'd say,
Mm.
"Yeah, I have a pistol in the car." And I'd say, "All right," without reaching for it,
Mm.
tell me where it's at. He goes, "Well, it's
Mm.
right here in the center console."
Mm.
I'm like, "All right,
Mm.
don't reach for the center console. Let me do what I got to get done, and you
Mm.
can be on your way."
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
so, but there's a lot of police officers that would get nervous about that, and like, "Oh, you got a weapon." I
Uh,
was totally the opposite. I wanted
mm.
them to be able to protect themselves,
Mm.
uh, because you know how it is as a police officer, and your jurisdiction was huge. You
Mm.
know, in mine, it might take us 20 minutes to get a police officer there if we were on one side
Mm.
of the county and
Mm.
the call came out on the other one.
Mm.
Let's say someone was trying to bust down their door,
Mm.
but yet we have no weapon, like you guys have gun laws. Well,
Mm.
how is that person going to protect themselves and their
Mm.
family?
Mm. Mm.
Because I'm going to kill myself to get there. I'm going to have lights and sirens.
Mm.
It's still
Mm.
going to take me 20 minutes to get there.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm
And you won't
I'm
run
going
out of
to
fuel.
I've done that before where I had to stop and get gas. Uh,
Uh,
but so how do I want you to be able to protect yourself. You
mm.
know,
Mm.
if you're an upstanding citizen, if you're a criminal, we'll figure that out down the road and
Mm.
we'll handle it. But not everybody's a criminal. They just
No,
want to
well,
be, yeah,
like most people are. Like that working in isolated areas, it's a tough gig, isn't it? Like
it
we never
is.
had when I went from Dubbo, which is a town of 40,000 people, a lot of police there, and there was always backup. But when I went to my first one manor, we were arresting a bloke just in the residential part of this town, and we were putting him into the back of the truck. It must have been winter because I had my leather coat on, and he was resisting violently going into the cage. And he pushed my shoulder. I can't remember which one it was now. My shoulder was dislocated. I noticed my shoulder is suddenly back here somewhere. Oh man, that's not a good feeling. And the bloke I was
No.
working with was a probationary constable. He wasn't very big. Anyway, somehow or other, I wriggled my shoulder, whatever I did, and it went back into the socket. We got him into the cage. But I realised that night, because my instinct was to tell my partner, because the junior policeman always carried the radio, call for urgent assistance. I realised there was none coming. Urgent assistance might have been half an hour away,
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
next town. It was about, 30-minute drive.
yeah.
Yeah, it was very different policing in those
No,
small, isolated places.
yeah. So we never, we were by ourselves.
Mm,
Uh, we
mm.
didn't have two-man crews. Uh,
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, you're on your
yeah,
own.
yeah.
Mm,
At least in our county, maybe other counties have more police officers or more
mm.
deputies. But so you learn how to talk to people. I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah, 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 yeah,
You learn not to smart off because you're by yourself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you try to gain it, and I've said this before, man. Thank God no one ever really gave me a hard time. They might
Mm,
have tried to fight me just to get away, but not to hurt me.
mm,
They didn't want to
mm,
go to prison. I mean, well, go to jail that night or whatever, and they would
mm,
tussle with you, but not to hurt you.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
I've always been 27 years, and
mm,
I contribute that to how I treated
mm,
the person out there on the wherever it would be, that I treated them respect and I didn't talk down to them,
Uh,
but they just didn't want to go to jail, so they were going to try to get away. And I'm trying to get them in the back of the car. So
yeah,
uh,
yeah. And I would dare say a command presence too, Mike.
it is, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I
mm,
mean, you really got to roll in there, let them know that, hey, I'm a cop. I'm
mm,
sworn to uphold the
mm,
law.
mm,
At the end of, we talked about that continue force the force continuum where you start out just
mm,
talking to them,
mm,
and if they elevate it, then you have to elevate one higher, and then,
mm,
all the way up to shooting them.
mm,
But we carried pepper spray, we carried tasers. There was a
mm,
lot of things we had asp, the expandable batons.
mm, mm,
There was a
mm.
lot of things that we had in our bag of tricks
Yeah.
that you know you could get compliance.
It kind of remind. I wasn't there when this happened, but one of my colleagues, he was at a big job in Sydney, and the tactical police were there, and like they call it whatever they were called back then, maybe the State Protection Group. Anyway, and there was one of these tactical police there. It was at I think it might have been a siege. And one of the police walked up to one of these tactical police, looked at all the gear on his belt and hanging off his vest and everything. He said, "Have you got a rowboat on there?"
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? You got all that stuff on your vest. When you're in the car,
Yeah.
you're all your stuff is touching the steering wheel. You
No
can't get
need for an
out.
airbag.
Or your seatbelt, you take your seatbelt off and it
Oh,
hangs up on something and
yeah.
jerks you around when you get
Yeah.
out.
I
It,
don't have any real experience of that because when I got out, I think I was fitted up for one of those vests, but I never actually wore one. I think I
oh
wore a
yeah.
taser maybe just once because with the protocol for us with tasers was you had to be two up. If you were on your own, you didn't carry a taser.
Well, they didn't want somebody taking the taser away from you and using it on you, I imagine. Same way with, did y'all have pepper spray or?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. And
Yeah. I
that's,
mean,
I mean, that's pretty limited in its use too, isn't it? You don't want to use it in a small room. You don't want to use it when the wind's blowing in your face. You got to maybe get the crook to turn around so that the wind's blowing the right way.
yeah, but a lot of people don't realize that. I sprayed a guy in the backseat of my car one time. He was
Oh,
kicking out the
God.
windows and
Yeah, right.
he was destroying the car, and I had to pull over, and I sprayed him. So he and I both went to jail with snot and tears running because it was in the car.
Yeah, it's horrible stuff, isn't it?
It's horrible. And I
Yeah,
shared a car, so
yeah.
we had 12-hour shifts too. When I got off shift, the guys coming on, the next guy coming on would have to get in that car.
Mike, what have you done?
Like, hey, man, I'm sorry. That guy was tearing up our car, so I had a pepper
Yeah.
spray. I mean, so that you'd see him out there, it'd be, 0 degrees out there, and they're got the windows rolled down while they're patrolling.
We,
That guy-
we arrested a bloke one night. I hosed him with capsicum spray because he was going to assault my partner. So I pushed him using that heel that we call it a check drill. Pushed him back, and then he came at us again, and I had to spray, and I just sprayed him pretty good dose of spray, and then he ran off. Anyway, his girlfriend was there. Oh no, we did a lap after lap after lap of this block where we lost him. Eventually, his girlfriend came out and she said, "Oh, can you help him? He's up the back. He's dying." So we went up the backyard. He's there. He's doing the right thing. He's got his head under a tap and he's right, mate. And I lied to him. I said, "Mate, get in the truck. We'll take you to the hospital. They got the antidote." Now, the protocol was we had to take him to the hospital to put saline in their eyes. But I said, I got the antidote. He couldn't get into the truck quick enough. Went back after the hospital did what they had to do, took him back to the station to charge him with a number of offences. And by then, all the time, he's going, I'm dying, And he got back to the station and he had a T-shirt on. There was a fair bit of capsicum spray on his T-shirt. And it was hot. And he took the T-shirt off and he reinfected himself with the capsicum
Yep.
spray in his eyes again. The whole thing started again. I'm dying.
Hey, so in order for y'all to carry it, for us, we had to go through. We had to be pepper sprayed. Same way with the taser. In order to carry a taser, we had to be tased before we were licensed or authorized to carry pepper spray. Did y'all have to do the same
No,
thing?
no,
Oh,
no, that you could if you wanted to, but at the day the day we were doing the capsicum spray training, there was a really old, hoary old sergeant next to me, and he said, I won't use the colourful language that he used. He said, but when they gave me a gun, they didn't shoot me. so,
That's true. That was always what we said too.
so
So,
no, I didn't. I've had secondary capsicum spray. I know it's horrible.
so I, so obviously I got pepper sprayed real early in my career. That's the first time I ever purposely put soap in my eyes. Man, it hurt so much. But the thing is they're wanting you to understand that you have to protect your taser and you have to protect your pepper spray, because if they do get your pepper spray and they spray you, you're going to have to fight through it. You know, because the next thing they're going to get is your gun. You know, so that's what the you know, so that's the reasoning behind it. But the same way with the taser, you take the taser, and I think the taser I had, you could set it for 3 seconds or 5 seconds.
Right.
And,
Okay.
yeah, and everybody I knew had it set on 5 seconds. But I will tell you, man, I would have. It locks you smooth up, you know. So you get the idea of what you're causing somebody, you know, and you get compliance real quick. You tell somebody, they're like, "Oh God."
There's some things on YouTube I've watched too many times about US cops or even Australian cops tasering someone. It's just you're the biggest person flat on their back in those times flat.
They just lock them up.
Yeah.
I watched one of those YouTube ones probably 20 years ago. They tasered a guy through the screen door.
Oh, wow. Gee.
It was the funniest thing. He was like a tree. He just timbered out through that screen door.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, man, was that screen door? Because it's metal, you know.
Yeah. I'm surprised that worked. Yeah.
I wonder if that thing was the whole screen door got electrified, you know. But
do you know that tasers also work by remote control? Because one night I had to go down to this other pretty small police station, and the police down there had arrested someone, and they bail refused them, which meant they had to go to jail for the night. So I went down there because this station didn't have that provision. So I went down there to pick up this prisoner, and they put him into the dock, into the bulletproof, or call it a cell, and without handcuffing him, and he had to be handcuffed. And he was very violent, really aggressive, and he wouldn't. There was no way he was going to let us put handcuffs on him without a fight. Back then, only the sergeants carried tasers, and I was trying to be the good cop. I'm trying to sweet talk him, mate, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know. No, it didn't work. So I just said to the other police there, I said, is the sergeant here? Yeah, she's out outside driving around. I said, get her back here, and we'll use a taser. We'll put 50,000 bolts through him. He went like this.
He heard you saying that, huh?
Oh yeah, on purpose. Yeah, he complied very quickly.
Yeah,
He'd either heard about tasers or had it before. He couldn't get his hands together quick enough.
Oh,
that works by remote control.
It hurts your muscles, you know. I mean, because they just. I mean, people don't understand what it does. You have no control unless I've seen it. I haven't personally seen it, but I've seen it on YouTube where a guy was on meth, you know, was in a manic state, and they tased him, and he just pulled the prongs out.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow, that's unbelievable. Yeah.
You're going to end up having to shoot that guy, man.
I've actually had some experiences on where I live now. We have electric fences. Do you have them in Texas?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, one time I was leaning over a fence. I thought the fence was off. And generally the first wire is hot. That's what we call it, hot. Man, it was bloody hot. It put me on my backside. I leaned over, bang, in the chest. And I ended up on my bum. And man, for about 45 minutes, I just felt sick. I did just the electricity going through me. Man, it was severe. So, and that's I think about the same as what a taser delivers. So, yeah.
Yeah, or you know, we have those electric prods too that you do for cattle. You know, cattle prod.
But you carry those?
Yeah. No. The farmers.
Oh yeah. We've got them here. Yeah. We got our 5 minute. We got our 5 minute mark a little while ago.
5 minute warning.
Yeah. So, well, thanks so much for for chatting. It's been fantastic. I knew I missed catching up with you. I realised even more now that we've had to
Yeah,
chat
same
how much I
here.
did. So it's been fantastic.
Uh,
Uh,
our conversations go so fast, so
yeah. So
it's always
you were saying earlier that you've got some friends that maybe we could adopt them into this. That'd be fantastic.
yeah, yeah, because
Yeah,
they'll have stories, of their
yeah.
own.
I'd love to meet them.
Yeah. So I'm gonna sweet talk them and see if I can't get one to come through here. I think if one or two will do it, I think the others will. You know how
Yeah.
your buddies are. They're just like, man, I don't want nothing to do with that. That's silly. Or I think if one or two will say, yeah, let me see what this is all about. And
Mm, that'd
talk
be
about their
great.
stories because
Yeah.
I mean, I have my stories. They're all particular to me. You have your stories. They're all
Mm,
particular to you. We
mm,
laugh about them. I laugh about your
mm.
experiences, and you laugh about mine.
Yeah.
But there's other guys too that are just they have just as funny experiences as we
Yeah, that'd
got.
be great. I'd love to
Yeah,
be able to do that. Yeah.
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 So they're again, they're all old, but I think I can. I'll work on it. I can't be definitive about it, but
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
work on it.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. Right. I will see you next week.
All right, brother. Good seeing you.
Likewise.
Raw. Semper Fi.